Hi everyone. I'm so excited to be with you today, and Ingressive Capital is so excited to hold this session with you. This session of this series is brought to you by Ingressive Capital in conjunction with the Spark, LSATF, and the Coalition Against COVID. The essence of this session really is to shine the light on recovery, show entrepreneurs that there is something positive at the end of the road. And today we are having a great person that I respect so much, Adekunle Adebiyi, and he's already online. So hi everybody in the chat section. Hi Ayo. Hi Jessica Fumi. How are you doing? As we wait for Adebiyi to come online. Hi Adekunle. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing great. We're all staying isolated and trying to be safe.
Some more than others. That's what I'll say about my situation. Some more than others. Okay?
Yeah, well, we just have to make do with the situations and the times and get the best out of it, really.
Yes. But when I said that, what I meant was I am having to isolate because I tested positive for COVID a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, I see. And
Yeah.
how has that been for you?
I'm fine. I have no test. But whilst I'm at home, I'm having to still work and stuff, which is why this is a nice break from the monotony of what I've been doing.
The work never stops.
The work never stops, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so can you introduce yourself to the audience? I would have loved to do it, but only you can introduce yourself the best way.
Okay. My name is Adekunle Adebiyi, and I work as Vice President at MBO Capital Management. I head up the investments team. MBO Capital Management is a private investment firm, private equity primarily, but we also do some other lines of businesses around financial advisory, assisting companies with buying and selling or capital raisings and stuff like that. My background is obviously I'm Nigerian. I attended primary school and secondary school here, Corona, VI, and King's College. I did my undergraduate studies in engineering in the UK, and then I have a master's in finance and international business, an MBA rather, from the US. Since moving back to Nigeria in 2009, I have worked for a tier 1 bank and the leading consultancy here in corporate finance. And I've been with MBO Capital now for, this will be my 7th year.
Yeah. Before we even go right into the questions, right? On a general perspective, what do you think entrepreneurs can do in this period? Everybody's saying, economies are crashing, things are not going to look good, be prepared for the worst. But what's your general advice on the surface level for entrepreneurs?
2 words: stay alive. That's the first thing. That's another thing. Generally speaking, let's not forget that this is essentially a humanitarian crisis. As at last count, over 6 million people have been infected, over 300,000 people have died, and it's quite serious. Speaking as someone who is COVID-19 positive, and I'm happy to say that because I'm pretty much in the clear now, I think, and symptomatic and everything, it's a serious time. When entrepreneurs think about their businesses, I like to think about it from a perspective, okay, who are your stakeholders? And any business always has stakeholders, whether it's importantly enough your employees, your customers, who are the lifeblood of any business, essentially, because if you have no customers, you have no business, your suppliers as well, and then the community in which you operate, and perhaps also the government. So you want to consider what staying alive during this COVID-19 times means in terms of your interactions with each of those stakeholders. So, for example, again, as an entrepreneur, you look to your government to say, okay, fine, is government providing me with any grants or sort of respite from the banks or anything like that that can help me run my business? Am I still able to interact with my customers? That's very important. But I would say really the first thing you have to consider is your employees, right? Because again, this is a humanitarian crisis. Are your employees safe? What are you doing to keep your employees safe? Are you able to keep on paying them? Right? Do you have a cash balance that allows you to do so? If not, what kind of negotiations can you enter with them such that when we do get out of this, and hopefully we will, you can go back to business in some shape. I want to say business as normal, but business in some shape or form. All right.
Yeah. Ah,
Okay. Yeah.
great. Now you've actually really said a lot of things that entrepreneurs have to look out for.
Yep.
So let's move to the financial part of things. For you, especially
Yep.
as an expert in investments,
Mm-hmm.
what financial metrics should entrepreneurs take note of or monitor during this period?
I mean, if you look at textbooks, they will tell you, okay, what is your quick ratio, liquidity ratio, or your gross margins. At the end of the day, as an entrepreneur, especially in Nigeria, it's all about cash, right? How much cash do you have in your books to stay alive? And obviously, the more revenues, more profits you have, the more cash you can potentially keep. The better you're able to control your costs, the better. So I honestly don't think, because we, as part of being an investment firm, we manage a few businesses, we oversee a few other businesses, and we help manage directly some businesses. And typically, it's your cash balance that you want to look at. Do you have enough cash on hand to ensure your supplies? Do you have enough cash on hand to pay your employees? Remember, like I said, you have to keep your employees properly motivated, especially at a time like this. There are a number of profitable businesses in the history of not just corporate finance, but business that end up going bankrupt or die, essentially because they don't have enough cash on hand. All right, and I think you'd have seen when this whole COVID pandemic started, you had established sort of blue chip businesses running to their banks to extend credit lines and so on and so forth, just to ensure that they had enough cash to survive this period. So I honestly, especially in Nigeria, where for whatever everybody else wants to say about whether we're a rich country or not, there's not a lot of cash just sitting around idle. It's especially important in this market that you are able to have funding to see you through this difficult period. I don't think you don't. Once you have the cash on hand, cash is king. You don't need to look beyond that in terms of what you need to survive. Yeah.
Thank you, Adekunle. Yeah. So I think just to rehash what you said, cash is king. As in,
Yeah.
liquidity is very, very important. You must have cash to pay your staff, cash to pay your vendors, cash to pay your partners. So you must figure out how to maintain that cash flow. But as an investor, Jen, I know you're into private equity. What are the things you look out for in businesses before you invest?
There's a few general things, and then there are a few things that I would say are idiosyncratic to the Nigerian market. For me, it's all about the entrepreneur, right? And more so than that, the passion of the entrepreneur, right? That's the first thing. That's because, when people talk about investing in businesses, especially at the SME or startup level, you are more so investing in people than you are in a business. You are giving these people your money to say, okay, fine. I understand your passion. I know that you're not going to take this because, one of my principal loves saying that you don't really know someone until you give them money, right? And it's very, very true in the market, right? So like once that money, it's even if it's like, as I'm sure we all do, where someone asks to borrow some money from you, can you lend them some money, right? When it's time to borrow, they're calling you every day, you're just following up. Yes, you said I should come back with you this week and so on and so forth. Then once the money has now changed hands and maybe it's time to repay or to get a follow-up, you're now the one that now has to chase people up. Now that's always a very bad sign. I always tell entrepreneurs, when you take money from people, right, don't let them have to chase you. All right. Even if, there's a payment date due next week that you can't wait, that you might not be able to make because of COVID or whatever else is going on, you should seize the initiative and contact them before they, just so, even if anything else, just so they know that you are thinking about them and the fact that you have a commitment to them. All right. That's one of the things a lot of Nigerians or entrepreneurs really don't understand. The fact that open communication, open dialogue can often help put the investor's mind at ease. All right. So again, the investor, their passion, their commitment, their professionalism, right? Do they understand what it is to run a business? I often say that, you can really tell about an entrepreneur, or you get a better sense of an entrepreneur, I should say, if they've worked for a corporate organization before. All right, because if no matter how big or small the organization is, if they've worked for a business and not just a one-man business, but a proper business, they'll understand the importance of having audited accounts, no matter what happens, about paying taxes, about corporate governance, about having, an HR function and, a business that cares for its employees. Those are all kind of things that, unfortunately, in Nigeria, and again, I have to be honest with you, I don't like hearing the word entrepreneur in Nigeria. Right. One of the things that always frustrates me, and I think I mentioned it to you before, is if you do what you do for a living and you tell me you're an entrepreneur, part of my mind just switches off. Right. The worst ones are serial entrepreneurs, right? Because very few serial entrepreneurs move from one successful business to another successful business.
We seem to have lost Adekunle.
And have sort of, let me just come off my Wi-Fi.
Okay, I think you're back. Okay.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yeah.
All right, this is good. No, so I'm not sure what the last thing you heard me say was.
You were talking about not liking the word entrepreneurship, and if you
well,
run a successful business, you know. Yeah.
I love the word entrepreneurship. What I don't like is the label entrepreneur. All right, because if I ask you what you do for a living and you tell me you're an entrepreneur, you really haven't told me anything about you, right? And one of the other things you have to realize about our market, Nigeria, is unfortunately, like I said, that the better entrepreneurs that I've found from my experience are the ones that have worked for corporate organizations. Now that involves employment, and unfortunately, unemployment is such a huge issue that we produce a lot of graduates every year, and there just isn't enough employment annually to soak up all these new graduates. So a lot of people, through no fault of their own, get forced into entrepreneurship, right? But I always say, try and be more focused on what it is you do, right? If you're into buying and selling, say you are buying and selling, so. If you're trying to run a startup, describe yourself as that. And I ask you what you do for a living. For like 5 seconds, you have my attention. In those 5 seconds, don't waste your time. Don't waste our time telling me you're an entrepreneur. Tell me something about your business that can pique my interest. So no, again, it's a bugbear with me. And I don't like the word entrepreneur, but I love entrepreneurship. I think Nigerians are some of the most entrepreneurial people you will ever meet. Everybody understands what it is to hustle. So in that sense, yes, no, I'm all for entrepreneurship. It's just entrepreneurs that worry me. So what was the question again? I'm not sure. Let's get away from the label. But
what do you look out for the businesses you invest in?
Exactly. So again, the entrepreneur is the most important thing, right? That spirit of entrepreneurship must be there. An understanding of the markets they're trying to play in, an understanding of how big the opportunity is going to be, right? One of the things we, again, you might have certain skills that make you suited to a market, but if the market size isn't great enough to make outstanding returns, then it's not something that's going to interest us. All right. But again, let's not get too far away from it, right? The first thing is the entrepreneur, their passion, their understanding of the market that they're operating in, and then the market opportunity. All right. And then again, there are other things you can do. Again, as around, when you come for a meeting, you're asking someone to fund your business, and it's not just an idea you have on the back of an envelope, but it's something you've been running for a while. Then we want to see you have proper accounts, you have proper corporate governance, you have all your CSC documents. Those are things that convey to us the fact that you are serious about what it is you're doing, and it's not just a hobby, something you ended up doing just because you couldn't find a job. Right?
Yeah. Thank you, Adekunle. Just to rehash one of the most important points you actually mentioned. In short, two of them. One, you said investors invest in the person running the business, and it's actually very, very important. Oftentimes,
Yeah.
investors actually invest in the person and not the business, because you're the vision driver. You're the one that will determine how well the business will do on the long run. So
Yes.
entrepreneurs or people need to realize that first.
Yes. Yeah.
Then secondly, you said something that I find very, very interesting, especially
Okay.
in the Nigerian ecosystem that I've worked in for quite some time. I believe and I see that people replicate the good business practices from the companies they worked in.
Yes.
So
Very good.
oftentimes, people that are running their businesses replicate whatever business practices from wherever they first worked in, which is also important. This point is very important because we as business people have to now run our businesses in the right way, so that
Yes.
whoever we are employing or are leading would eventually go on to start businesses that would, have the best business practices. So thank you for
Yeah.
making that point. It's actually very, very,
Yeah.
very, very important.
Yeah.
Um, apart okay okay, this is actually one question that I get quite a lot. when
Okay.
should when is the right time to raise capital?
um, so that's a very complicated question, right? So
Yeah.
obviously, to start a business, you need capital.
Yeah.
All right. So you have to have enough capital to start the business. All right. And then, so you have enough capital to start the business. So the question is, okay, so when next should you raise capital? Right.
Yeah.
The first capital you raise should be enough for you to establish proof of concept. All right. And proof of concept means that there is a market out there for whatever goods or service you are selling. All right. Now, again, how do you define the market? I like to say that you're in business the first day somebody you've never met before, so not a friend or a family member or anything like that, but a complete stranger hands over the cash to you for something you are doing. All right. Because don't forget, Nigeria is a low trust environment. I mean, I have family members I don't trust, talk less of friends and strangers, right? And the idea that you have started this business, and somebody is willing to give you cash in exchange for the value that they understand and have perceived your business is able to create for them, that is very, very important. Okay. And obviously you want to raise enough capital to not only see you get to that point, but then to also do everything to get the building blocks in place. All right. Because at some point, if you're doing it well, you will soon need to raise more capital. Okay. And, raising capital in Nigeria is one of those very, very sort of difficult. Anywhere in the world, it's difficult to raise capital, especially in Nigeria, because if it's, getting someone to exchange cash for a product or service you have is difficult enough. Getting someone to exchange cash for an interest in the long-term vision of your company is a million times more difficult. All right, it really is. Okay, so it's almost a full-time job in itself. That's why investment bankers are out there, because it's very and again, one of the things I also have to point out is, as an entrepreneur, Nigeria is quite easily one of the most difficult countries in the whole world to run a business, right? Employees are trying to rob you. Government is trying to take cash of you without providing anything in return. There's no lights. You need to get an inverter, you need to buy diesel. There's so many things people who run businesses in other countries can take for granted that the Nigerian entrepreneur can't. All right, which is another reason why I think we really shouldn't have as many entrepreneurs as we do, right? We need to have more collaboration, more people coming together in teams to try and do stuff, because, it's very, very difficult. So, when should you raise capital? Who should you raise capital from is probably the more important question, because again, and it goes back to people who believe in you as an entrepreneur. And from my experience, I've always found, and I'm sure I've told you this before, that at the onset, it's going to be friends, families, and if you want to be generous, fools, right? People who know you, people who, if you've spent all your life, being a fan of drawing, and you're very good at it, you're very talented, your parents and friends will know that. So if you now come and say you want to start a business as an animation studio, right? Your family and friends will say, given the skills and talents I know this person has, that makes sense, right? And if he needs some money from me to help him support that dream, that makes sense as well, all right? And again, it's one of the things we look to. We always look at, okay, fine, what's your current capital structure if you're looking for an investment, right? Okay, fine, you would have some savings, hopefully, in the business, right? Always be wary of people who say they run a business, but they don't own that much of their business, all right? Because where is the alignment? Where's the alignment, right? Not if I've seen people who to get their business off the ground, their parents didn't just invest, but put their property, right, that they had as title, as down payment, security for a loan, so that this person could start this business. All right. There's a very popular film producer whose mother was able to do that for her. And you think about that, because this is the house that the parent lives in, that they're willing to give up as security to a bank in Nigeria, which will very quickly call on that security if they need to. And if you see that this person has that kind of commitment from people that know them, right, gives you as an investor more confidence in what it is they're trying to do. Okay. So yeah, that's the who, friends and family early on, because it's, again, especially in the startup world, I actually don't think, you start a business, you start running it, you really want to bed down your business before you have to go into the market and say you want to raise capital. One thing I will say is that there are a lot of companies out there, Aggressive Capital being one of them, that can help at that seeding stage to help grow a business. And there are all these incubators as well that provide assistance with management or even locating a business. All those things the entrepreneur in Nigeria definitely needs. I wish there were more of them, and it really does help to grow the very good businesses if those entrepreneurs are aware of those things and able to take advantage of them. Right?
Yeah. Thank you for answering so well. Interestingly, I always tell people, entrepreneurs I talk to, that the information you're looking for is actually online, right? Don't sit down in your house and say, hey, I don't know where to get funding from, or, oh, I don't know how to seek for funding. Most of this information is open source. It's there. Google, let Google be your best friend, really. I'm not of the opinion that people have to spoon feed you. Oftentimes, you have to go out as an entrepreneur, again, that word, to go out and create things for yourself.
And the other
point, a more fun question.
No, sorry. There's one very important point I forgot to address, right?
Yeah.
How much should you raise? That's another.
I was getting there. I was going to get there.
Right. And again, like I said, you want to do proof of concept. You want to show people that there are customers out there, right, that aren't friends and family, that see value in what it is I'm able to produce and are willing to pay for it, right? Now, the question of how much you should raise, again, don't forget that capital is scarce, and because it is scarce, it is also expensive, right? So if you raise more money than you need, right, and it is just sitting in your bank account, that is a huge cost, because what's the best interest rate on a current or savings account in Nigeria? You're never going to get 5% a year, all right? Whereas the cost of equity in Nigeria, cost of debt, which is cheaper than equity, cost of debt in Nigeria starts around 15-20%. If you're lucky, if you're able to get a loan from a bank, which most startups aren't because they don't have enough security. Cost of equity is really 26-30% and above. Okay, so it doesn't make sense to raise capital, more capital than you need, and just have it sitting in the bank account. Even if you're able to fix it in a fixed deposit account, you're never going to get what you need to cover the returns of that cost. You're never going to get enough returns to match the cost of that capital. All right. And then, early on, don't try and spend money on marketing. That's one of the things that I will always come back to, right? People think, yes, especially in the tech sphere, I've started this tech business. Okay, I'm getting some traction. I have some customers. Now is to go and do branded t-shirts, to get radio adverts. No, the best way to market a young business, and by best, I mean cheapest, is word of mouth. All right. So if you have a customer that you're servicing very well, all right, by the time your customer is very comfortable with you, your next question to that customer is, do you have other people you can recommend me to? Right. And if that customer likes what it is you are doing, right, and begins to rely more and more on you, they know that it is to their benefit to have have other customers as well, so that your business's existence is more certain. All right. So again, avoid, because marketing is very dangerous in Nigeria. If you have 1 billion naira to spend on marketing, you can get that video to do a concert. People will come and help you spend that money, right? And again, one of the problems with marketing is easily a significant portion of that money is just wasted, right? It's, there's a famous quote by a CEO about how he knows 50% of his advertising budget is wasted. The problem is he doesn't know which 50%. So he doesn't know which bit to cut. All right. So don't spend money on marketing. Spend money on things that are going to increase the stickiness of your business with your customers, with your existing customers, and lower the cost of you getting more customers. That's what's important, I think.
Yeah, just to add to what you said, I think it's that false impression that consumer growth or customer growth is tied to spending money on social media and doing ads.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
so and because so many startups don't also know the kind of metrics we track, so you assume that if 10,000 people log into my platform, that is growth. But oftentimes it's not growth. It might be how many daily average users have you had? How many people are actually paying? So maybe the kind of metrics that entrepreneurs track to is actually very, very important. It's more than just being on social media, trending for the wrong reasons on Twitter and Instagram or whatever. It's way more than that.
To your point, all those metrics you mentioned, exactly, can be very fancy, but you always want to look at the ones. Remember what I said at the beginning, the most important thing is cash, right? So look at the metrics that tied directly to the cash that you as a business are able to generate. Okay, so like eyeballs might be nice, but no, focus more on clicks to buy, all right, on purchases, stuff like that. Okay, those are the kind of things I think are very important.
Okay, and to a more fun question, how did you get into finance and into the money business? I mean, you came from a engineering background.
Yeah. Okay. So right. So as I mentioned, I did my first degree, and again, I'm a Nigerian. I emphasize that I'm Nigerian, so I have Nigerian parents. So we all got stuck to that whole, you must do a professional degree. I had law, medicine. I was good at maths and science, so engineering was my path. But pretty much from my first engineering lecture at university, I just didn't feel like engineering was for me. And especially because when I studied in the UK, engineers get pigeonholed, right? So if you're a very good engineer, you'll either end up working on the shop floor or in a lab somewhere, right? You won't really get the opportunity, like say you would in like Germany. In Germany, most of their CEOs and MDs are ex-engineers, right? Because they have a culture of moving people from the labs into the corporate suites. But when I studied and started working, I quickly saw that engineering wasn't going to allow me to help sort of like make decisions that would affect the course of a business. One thing I should say as well is that before that, when I was applying to like study in university, yes, I knew I was going to do engineering, but I knew my long-term career goal was to encourage investment in Nigeria and Africa. At the time, I didn't know what private equity was, so I couldn't say I want to be a private equity professional. All I knew was that I wanted to work in some sort of function that would allow the vast capital that exists outside Nigeria to help encourage the economic development of Nigeria. Because I think I saw at an early age that there are a number of things we need to do. And I think one of the great misnomers, one of the great sort of lies that we tell ourselves in Nigeria is that Nigeria is a rich country. It's really not. Yes, we have a lot of natural resources, but even then, we're not blessed with natural resources the way, say, the DRC is, right? The Democratic Republic of Congo, they have way more natural resources, wealth than we do, all right? But to develop an economy, you need an infusion of capital, massive amounts of capital. And that capital just does not exist in Nigeria, all right? So we need to, and that's probably one of my great, one of the great tragedies for me of the current Nigerian climate is that it's proven to be very hostile to foreign capital. All right, some of the government policies right now really don't make sense and look to penalize foreigners for bringing their capital into Nigeria and looking to make a return. And capital is fungible. These guys offshore are looking at countries with a blank slate and saying, okay, fine, where can I put my money in and get the return? All right, so yes, I decided, after doing my engineering degree that I wanted to work in an investment sort of function, which is why I did an MBA in finance that allowed me to change careers. that's a rather long answer to your rather short question.
No, but it's very, very relatable, right? I always tell
Yep.
entrepreneurs that I work with that you find your purpose by doing, right? So you knew
Yep.
what you wanted to do. You knew the change you wanted to bring in Nigeria, right? But everything you had done from engineering to having an MBA in, eventually brought you to here, private equity.
Yeah.
And if you
Yeah.
relate this back to entrepreneurs and running their businesses, they want to solve a problem, a gap. They've seen a gap they want to fix. But if you just sit down with your house and say, oh, the government is not, doing the right thing, or customers are not going to buy from me, probably not going to do anything. That gap
Yeah.
will still be there. So
Yeah.
entrepreneurs have to go out there and get to work, start finding creative ways, start collaborating like you actually mentioned. So thank you for actually sharing. And so I actually planned for this conversation to be about 30 minutes. I didn't want to stress you out
Okay.
today. So this is
No,
probably
it's
going to be
fine.
our last question.
All right.
When do you know it's time to pivot or even shut down the business? It's a hard question, right? And it's a hard realization for a lot of
Okay,
people.
so that's actually a very complicated question as well, because so I still think we have a lot of problems with the Nigerian corporate structure, right? Kama, the law that guides how companies are run, Corporate and Allied Matters Act or whatever, I don't think allows for bankruptcies the way it should, right? So when you ask when should you shut down the business, or when should you pivot, I prefer the when should you pivot, right? And that answer, the answer to that question is very easy. When your core constituency doesn't seem to be interested in what you are offering, it's time to pivot, right? I mean, like, and you've seen it with even like the app on Instagram. This wasn't what it was intended to be, but the founders saw that it wasn't getting any traction, and they decided to pivot into something else. So, I mean, again, that one is quite easy. If your customers, if you have like a technology or a core set of something, skills, or I'm not even sure what else to say, but yeah, if you have something that your business is founded on, but you are struggling to gain traction with customers, that's when I think you need to explore pivoting. If you are fortunate enough that you're doing this before you run out of cash, then it's imperative that you pivot. All right. Now, in Nigeria, bankruptcy is an interesting thing because we don't have like Chapter 11 or Chapter 13 like they do in the US, corporate codes, whereby you can get some respite from your liabilities and your creditors, and then make a decision as to how you reorganize your business, right? Because there are a lot of businesses in Nigeria that are basically shells of themselves, right? Some of these businesses are actually listed on the stock exchange. They don't really exist. They're losing customers, but nobody's ever been in a position to force them into bankruptcy. It's only when the banks get involved, if they've taken bank debt and the bank is like, look, there's not enough security to cover the loan, and it doesn't look like you guys are doing anything anymore, that they will now force taking over the business. So I would say that before you run out of cash, if you're losing customers, it's time to pivot, right? If you run out of cash, decision to go bankrupt will typically be taken out of your hands, and you'll be forced into it. But I mean, how many bankruptcies have you heard of in Nigeria in the last 5 years? Nobody really talked about that, because it's like, bankruptcy is seen as some sort of, there's a stigma attached to it, even though some of the most successful businessmen in the world previously ran business, going back to this whole successful entrepreneur idea, most of the successful entrepreneurs have been involved in failed ventures, right? But in Nigeria, there's a stigma attached to being involved in a failed venture, which is why we don't really talk about bankruptcies, and we should, because bankruptcies are one of the most important aspects of running a proper free market capitalist economy. All right. The whole idea, and that's because it's related to competition. Okay. You set up a business, other people set up a similar business, and whoever sort of has better product, whoever is able to serve customers better and create more value for society, ends up winning that particular competitive battle. The other businesses should be forced into bankruptcy, the assets should be divvied out, and the entrepreneurs be allowed to go and do something else. But that doesn't really happen in Nigeria. People just sort of continue wading along, and it leaves for a very messy corporate landscape.
All right. Thank you,
Okay.
Adekunle. Any final words as we go?
No, this whole Instagram live session was about what businesses could do to stay alive. And again, I don't think it's any different from any other humanitarian crisis you can face. The most important thing businesses need to do, stay alive, is make sure that they take as much care of their employees as they can, right? I had some notes written down earlier. I was going to mention an example. We have one business we manage in the aviation sector, all right? Now, aviation is completely in the doldrums, you know. The airspaces of various countries were shut, all right? And in managing the business, we simply prioritized, I mean, with the limited cash we had on hand, we would keep the employees paid on their salaries, right? For the first few months, we were able to do that 100%. So these people were just sitting at home earning 100% salary. And then that obviously was not sustainable. And then we brought it down to 60%. And the employees understood and were still grateful to have a job rather than to be made redundant. And the whole idea is once the airspace starts opening, right, we don't have to go out and find new employees. We have employees still there that we're able to pull on. And I mentioned this before because obviously, you know, we kept enough money to pay our employees, and our suppliers, their bills are just racking up, right? And no, because you know that business isn't any money at the moment. At the point when it starts earning money, we will focus on catching up in terms of paying the suppliers as we should, right? So the most important thing right now is take care of your people, take care of your health, and hope to live and fight another day. Very important in Nigeria because it's a very, very difficult environment to do business in.
Thank you so much, Adekunle. Glad to have you, and thank you for sharing all you've shared. We're really grateful, and we've learned so much from you.
Okay, man. Thank you very much. It's nice doing this. Cheers. Bye.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining this session with us this week. Next week, Tuesday, we'll have another great person. Just to rehash what I said at the beginning, this is done in conjunction with the SPAC, with LSCTF, and the Coalition Against COVID. And basically, we just want to shed more light on, you know, businesses and entrepreneurs as they battle through this period. We know this period is not easy, and we're doing all we can to support entrepreneurs. We're doing all we can to support companies so that they will go on to build greater companies as the pandemic dies. It's important to note that it's during the depression that great companies were built. The Facebook of this world, the PayPal, and all the rest, the Zooms of this world were built during economic depression. So this is the right time to fund businesses, to help entrepreneurs. This is the right time to support your staff, to pay staff. Don't try to shortchange people. Please, please, please try your best to protect your staff. This is the time to help people in need. Thank you so much for joining this session. Till next week, I'm going to see you.